Welcome to a Legendary special about the Berserkers, dread warriors of the Viking Age. In this episode, we will talk about the great deeds attributed to the Berserkers and how they might have pulled them off. When the Viking Age began around the year 750 AD, Norse military power centered on the retinue, a body of armed men who assembled around a chief or petty king. Though ordinary villagers might be pressed into service, the retinue made up the core of any armed force. Among these tough men who sought fame and fortune at the tip of an axe, some attempted to take the spirits of bears or wolves into their bodies. The cult of the bear became especially strong among the fighting men of the north, for men feared and revered these powerful hunters, though cults of the wolf and wild boar also flourished. Many became devotees of Odin, king of the Norse gods. These bear worshippers would, in time, change into unruly gangs of warriors called Berserkers. They often attached themselves to a particular war chief or king whom they believed would lead them to victory. Within these courts, these gangs earned reputations for weapons skill, animal handling, and of course their unhinged battle rage. Like other members of traditional shamanic societies, Berserkers acquired their supposed power through ritualistic practice. These practices included spending long periods of time in extreme isolation, fasting, exposure to extreme heat and cold, and engaging in group weapon dances prior to combat. In the wilderness, Berserkers lived like their totem animal, adopting their mannerisms and habits, including sustaining themselves by hunting and sleeping on the cold ground. Ultimately, they sought to transform themselves into the beast itself, going as far as wearing wolf or bear skins into battle to take the beast's power. This fury, called Berserker Gang, occurred not only in the heat of battle, but also while doing laborious work. Men possessed by Berserker Gang could do things which otherwise seemed impossible. The condition is said to have begun with shivering, a chattering of the teeth, a chill in the body, and then the face swelled and changed color. Finally, a great hot-headedness came over the Berserker, which gave over into uncontrollable rage. They howled as wild animals, bit the edges of their shields, and cut down everything they met, not discriminating between friend or foe. In battle, tales tell of them snatching arrows from the air, fighting with a spear in each hand and biting holes in enemy shields. Other songs told of them being immune to fire and iron. One 13th century Icelandic poet wrote of them as wearing no armor in battle and their skin becoming so thick it could repel blades, like a bear's fur. It further described one such berserker as "A demoniacal frenzy suddenly took him. He furiously bit and devoured the edges of his shield. He kept gulping down fiery coals. He snatched live embers in his mouth and let them pass down into his entrails. He rushed through the perils of crackling fires, and at last, when he raved through every sort of madness, he turned his sword with raging hand against the hearts of 6 of his companions." Yet, could real science lie behind the extraordinary feats attributed to the Viking Berserkers? Some scholars believe they used hallucinogenic mushrooms. Howard Fabbing wrote in the American Journal of Psychiatry that Berserkers may have taken Amanita muscaria, a psychedelic mushroom that contained bufotenine. In trials, bufotenine caused hallucinations and psychophysiological effects consistent with those described in Norse sagas. It is also possible they drank vast amounts of alcohol to drive themselves into a booze-powered rage. And both mushrooms and booze consumption fit contemporary knowledge of Viking rituals. Nonetheless, other reasons for the rage trance have been suggested, including self-induced hysteria. The first mention of berserkers came in a Norse poem about the first king of Norway, Harald Fairhair, who lived during the late 800s and early 900s. The poem mentioned a warrior gang in Harald's army fighting while clad only in animal skins. Supposedly, berserkers also served as the vanguard in the great heathen army which invaded England during the middle of the 800s. Since the berserkers did not fear death, kings unleashed them against enemy shield walls or sent them around the rear. Small wonder that Christian priests believed Viking berserkers to be possessed by Satan himself. Later Scandinavian kings such as Harald Hardrada and Halfdan used berserkers as shock troops. According to Norse lore, a Viking berserker faced the Anglo-Saxon army at Stamford Bridge in 1066 alone, killing 40 men before he finally succumbed to his wounds. However, like many others, the berserkers outlived their usefulness. Many of the Norse sagas actually described berserkers as villains because they would not be controlled by the laws or the chiefs who enforced them. Most could not function in normal society, and popular lore described them transforming into bears, living apart from their fellow men. This might be a metaphor for men who could not function in everyday society and often challenged farmers to duels for their wives, daughters, and even their farms. Small wonder that the chiefs wanted them gone eventually. By the 1000s, powerful kings consolidated control of Scandinavia and did not want other chieftains to challenge them. Unsurprisingly, they decided the berserkers had to go. Additionally, Christianity became increasingly strong among the ruling class, and the priests believed the berserkers to be a holdover from the Viking Age. So as they imposed Christianity upon the Norse, the chiefs and kings also abolished the secret shamanic societies. Within a few generations, their practices died out, though tales of the berserkers survived long into the Christian era, inspiring fear, which would no doubt make the berserkers proud. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.